Hello, thanks for playing this video. My name is Larry Michael. I'm with the Rummel Agency. I'd like to talk to you today about the mandatory auto coverages the state of Michigan says you need to have when you register your vehicle to drive in the state of Michigan. Now, mandatory does not mean there are no choices. There are big choices to make here. You need to understand what they are. Now, to be clear, I'm going to oversimplify things. I'm going to take some liberties with details. I'm going to skip some details. The goal here is to prepare you for an awesome conversation with your insurance agent, not to turn you into an insurance agent. You'll notice there are a couple of terms I will not be using: PLPD and full coverage. I don't use those terms because they're insurance slang. They don't show up in your auto policy. I personally don't want to base my financial future on slang terminology. You don't do it. So, 3 mandatory coverages on your policy that you have. If you have an insurance policy in Michigan, you have these coverages. First one is coverage for your medical bills. You're injured in a car. Covers procedures, restorative, therapy, medications, you name it, it's covered. Unlimited coverage for as long as you live. But still, there are choices to make. We'll cover those. Lawsuit protection. You're sued, you were at fault, someone died, someone lost a limb, they can't work anymore. Your name's going to be on a lawsuit. There are coverage for this in your policy, and there are choices to make. And property protection insurance, that's just you damage somebody's property, their car, their house, a lamppost. In the state of Michigan with your car, there's $1 million of coverage here. It's baked into the policy. That's something we can't do anything about. That's good coverage, and it is what it is. So let's talk about a couple of big choices, a couple of big decisions here. First, your PIP coverage, your medical coverage. You've got an important choice here. The first choice is, as this diagram shows, you're in the hospital, you're laid up, you're not working, you're incurring hundreds, thousands of dollars in medical bills a day. You submit those to your auto policy, and the medical part of your auto policy pays these bills. Oh, and by the way, lost income because you're not working, you can submit that to your auto policy and it'll pay a percentage of that for you for up to 3 years. Not bad. Here's the option though. You could have your own medical plan cover your auto injuries. Say Blue Cross, you got a Blue Cross policy. So you're in bed, maybe you've got a child or a wife injured. You're submitting these bills to your personal medical carrier. Well, they're co-pays or deductibles. Maybe they would prefer you just take generic pills. I don't know, but as those things are getting denied, declined, whatever, they come back to you. You submit them to your auto policy's medical plan, then it picks up where your, say, Blue Cross didn't. So you're in the position of coordinating the payment of these bills. It's a big hassle. Your call. Your medical policy coverage for Blue Cross, if you go that route, you'll save 40 to 50% on this coverage. So it saves money up front, but when you need it, you're in for a bit of a hassle. So let's go on to the next coverage, liability coverage. This is, again, you were at fault in an accident. You're going to get sued because somebody died, they're disfigured, they're dismembered, they can't work anymore. All right. So there are 2 different ways to talk about this coverage. One is what we call a split limit. It's 3 different numbers separated by slashes. The first number is a maximum per person. The second one is a maximum for all people in the accident. The third one is a maximum for property. The easiest one to deal with is what we call a single limit or a combined limit. It's just one big bucket. The number applies to all of the 3 things a split limit does. It's just easier to think about. So the state minimums in the state of Michigan are 20, 40, and 10. 20,000 per person, 40,000 for all the people, and 10,000 for property. Well, it seems like a lot, But is it? Last year in the state of Michigan, average household income was $50,000, give or take. So you hit somebody, you're at fault, they can't work anymore. Well, say they can't work for 2 years, that's about $100,000. Oh, but wait, your liability limit is $20,000. Where's the $80,000 going to come from? It's going to come from you. Now you're going to say, I'm not worried because you can't get blood out of a rock. I've heard that a million times. You know what the court system can do to a rock? It gets something out of it. You don't want to find out the hard way. So let's talk about that for a second. You hit somebody, you're getting sued. An insurance company shows up with attorneys and a bucket of money up to your coverage amount. Let's say it's $20,000. So the courts decide you were at fault. The fair thing to do is for you to come up with $100,000. Your insurance company says, whoa. They write a check for 20, they grab their attorney, slam their briefcases shut, and they leave. Now it's up to you to come up with your defense costs and those extra awarded damages. It's all on you. You do not want to be in that situation. So, real quick recap. The mandatory coverages, you've got personal injury protection, then you choose whether you want your auto policy medical to pay the bills or your personal medical plan to pay the bills. The personal medical plan costs a little less, but gives you a headache. The liability coverage or lawsuit protection, you've got various limits available. The state minimum is $20,000. You can get millions if you want. And then the personal property protection, you get $1 million no matter what you want, so no one ever talks about it. So we've been talking about a fresh perspective on your insurance, looking at it not as a necessary evil, but as a key component to a secure financial future. So let me ask you a question. If you're in the hospital, you're banged up, or it's your wife or your kid, you're not at your best. It's an emotional time. Could be the worst time of your life. Do you want to deal with co-pays and deductibles and generics or whatever limits your medical plan has? Or do you just want to have your auto policy pick up the bills with no worries? Well, you save a couple bucks if you got, say, Blue Cross handle it. How much do you save? You save about a large pizza with 2 toppings a month. That's what you save. Is that worth it to you? Think about it. Second question, if you're sued and the amount of the awarded damages is in excess of what you purchased on your policy, are you ready to take on those extra costs? It put a big dent in your financial future. What does your financial future mean to you? So if you're at $20,000 and you want, say, $300,000, what's the monthly charge for that? Probably a Southwest chicken salad from McDonald's. Maybe it's a small cheese pizza. $6 to $8 a month. That's all it costs to make big changes in your future. Give it some thought. So you got one other option here. That's the umbrella policy. The umbrella policy can add more limits to your liability. Usually umbrellas come in increments of $1 million. Normal people can get up to $5 million generally. Sometimes more is available. So those are the mandatory coverages. Important choices to make. Don't gloss it over because they have a big impact on your financial future. So stick with us. There's the optional coverages video, which the state says are optional and I say they're not. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the PLPD concept that everybody uses and it's dangerous. And then we'll learn about the no-fault reform and how it changes everything we've been talking about. But if you don't understand what we've been talking about, reform doesn't make much sense. So that's what's next. Hang in there with us. Thanks for watching.